Bonjour, dear viewers, and welcome to a new edition from our daily debate. In today's edition, we are going to talk about the latest developments concerning the Gaza Strip, and we'll start with our top stories, where President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi visited the police academy on Tuesday, during which he held an interactive dialogue with the new applicants to the academy. The head of state reviewed the developments in the domestic, regional and international arenas. The president reiterated that local developments had demonstrated the unity of the people and their commitment to leading the country towards a phase of development and achievements. During the visit, President Sisi observed the physical fitness tests for male and female applicants to the academy. These tests were conducted according to the objective criteria emphasized by the president to select the most qualified and distinguished candidates for joining the police force. The process contributes to enhancing the performance of the Egyptian police and their pivotal role in consolidating security and stability in the country. And the National Election Authority held a press conference on Tuesday to announce the results of the first phase of the parliamentary elections. During the press conference, head of the National Election Authority, Councillor Hazem Badawi, announced that the runoff election would be held in 31 constituencies. Councillor Badawi added that the election results in 19 constituencies across 7 governorates out of total 70 electoral districts in 14 governorates would be cancelled. He said the NEA accurately monitored the election process and that the elections were cancelled in 19 constituencies over the irregularities and breaches. Addressing the press conference, head of the executive office of the NEA, Councillor Ahmed El-Bindari, hailed the election process and said Egypt would remain great with its history, present and future, all drawn by its great people. Bindari reiterated that the authority is confident of the people's awareness of the importance of the elections. Indeed, Egypt is continuing its intensified effort to secure Gaza ceasefire and to advance into the Palestine reconciliation. More details in the following report.
Egypt continues to play an increasingly pivotal role in regional diplomacy, exerting comprehensive efforts to secure a ceasefire in Gaza and prevent further escalation in the ongoing conflict. Through intensive communications and sustained contacts with all relevant and influential actors at both the regional and international levels, Cairo has underlined that halting the bloodshed is an urgent and non-negotiable priority. As one of the region's most experienced mediators, Egypt views the cessation of violence not only as a humanitarian imperative, but also as a necessary step towards re-establishing a workable political environment capable of supporting long-term peace and stability. Egypt's current mediation strategy is grounded in decades of experience in Arab-Israeli negotiations and a consistent commitment to supporting the Palestinian rights and statehood aspirations. Cairo's diplomatic outreach is characterized by a multi-layered approach that involves direct communication with Palestinian factions, including both the Palestinian Authority and Hamas, coordination with regional powers such as Jordan, Qatar and Saudi Arabia, as well as engagement with global actors, notably the United States, the European Union and the United Nations. The broad diplomatic network allows Egypt to act as a trusted interlocutor capable of bridging deep political divides. With violence in Gaza continuing to generate severe humanitarian consequences, Egypt emphasized that achieving a ceasefire could not be delayed. Egyptian officials consistently stressed that every day without a ceasefire worsens civilian suffering, undermines regional stability and diminishes prospects for a sustainable political solution. Egypt's efforts extend beyond diplomatic engagement to include practical measures aimed at preventing the conflict from spilling over into neighboring territories. Additionally, it uses its political leverage to urge all parties to adhere to international humanitarian law and avoid actions that could increase civilian casualties.
Welcome back, our dear viewers, to shed more light on the latest developments in the Gaza Strip and how Egypt and the other partners are trying to consolidate the ceasefire agreement in the Gaza Strip and to create a reconciliation among the different factions in Palestine. We are very much delighted to be joined here in the studio by Mrs. Haneen Abu Shanab, the member of the General Union for Palestinian Women. Thank you so much, Ms. Haneen, for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
It's our pleasure. How is Egypt engaging with regional and international actors in order to promote and hold on for the ceasefire in the Gaza Strip?
Egypt is always active and always keen on making sure that the ceasefire agreement and the peace agreement actually goes through, not just a theoretical piece of paper that everyone had signed. It's been heavily noticed that the diplomatic and political activities and the communications, the meetups, on all levels actually have been heavily conducted, making sure that everyone is actually on board, the consensus among the region, the agreement among the parties, the agreement of the remediators, of course, and everyone who is mediating this peace making is actually on board. Everyone is seeing the same, or everyone is on board in the same page. Different challenges, of course, have arisen since the initiation of the peacemaking. Like we said, the devil lies in the details, of course, and this is what's been happening. We spoke of an immediate ceasefire. It hasn't been immediate. It continued, and with the entrance of the winter season, it's been, whatever has been challenging the Palestinian people, especially in Gaza, has magnified terribly with the heavy rains, with the limitation in resources.
And yet it's the start of the winter season.
Exactly. So it's very horrific. However, of course, Egypt does not spare any chance or any opportunity to make sure that whatever negotiations need to be made, whatever convincing here or there, whatever accountability that needs to be held is actually being addressed, and the plan is being implemented. As we've seen also in the Security Council in the UN, the votes have been reached by majority that everyone is agreeing on the implementation of this plan that Mr. Trump, of course, had proposed, and of course under the leadership of Egypt, Qatar, and of course Turkey as well.
Yes. Doctor, in what ways is Egypt actually communicating with the other partners to hold the violations while securing the implementation of the ceasefire agreement?
We've seen a very clear and loud communication from Egypt to the US, of course, making sure that the top leaders or the co-hosts or the co-chairmen of this peacemaking agree on the same points, and this has been cascaded to the other parties. Of course, in terms of formal or official statements, the Palestinian presidency has said that we are in favor of making sure that this treaty actually sees the light. However, those who are deviating from the norm, we've seen Hamas going against, of course, similar to Israel and their supporters. So heavy communications and negotiations trying to push them or making them change their opposition has never stopped. Although initially they said that they were on board, but again when things actually get serious or when things become more of a reality, they actually speak the truth, and this is not what we want. They want their individual benefits above the Palestinian benefits, unfortunately.
But yet we are seeing some threats from the Israeli side regarding the violations of the ceasefire agreement, and of course the insistence of Hamas disarming, and if they did not disarm willingly, they would force this disarmament. So how do you see all these arguments taking place on the ground, and how these threats from the Israeli side actually could hinder the process of the peace?
Unfortunately, it's the typical solution or the typical course that they take. Initially, they pretend that they are on board, we are welcoming and everything, but then after everyone has signed, they start to show their actual...
And the return of the detainees and the bodies of the deceased.
Unfortunately. So we've seen Ben Ghafir, he escalated things to an extreme. He said that even Mr. Abbas, the president of the state of Palestine, after the formal recognition of the whole world that Palestine is now a state, so whatever recognition or whatever formal recognition by the international community, the international law, and the different communities and the different organizations or arms actually of the UN, the most supreme entity there is in the world. He's saying, do not think that anything can protect you from us, and nothing can. Now, do you think you're a diplomat? Not in my eyes. So no one is safe from their aggression, no one is safe from their hostility.
Extremism.
It's beyond extremism. If there is an extremer word that describes this, it's them actually. So they're beyond any words that can describe them actually.
How is Egypt actually engaging with the regional and international actors to promote and hold on to the ceasefire, and what diplomatic tools is used by Egypt and its partners to persuade the conflicting party to agree on the sustainability of the ceasefire and to move on with the other phases from the peace agreement which was signed in Sharm el-Sheikh?
Absolutely. Egypt is the most wise actually among them all. The whole, whether from the top leadership until the smallest or youngest member of the team that's working towards this peacemaking, they're very wise, they're very patient, they're very persistent with what they want, and they do not get distracted with this hitting and bullying on the sides. They're focused on the agenda, that is peacemaking. They want to make sure that this goes through because it's the only chance so far of a two-state solution. So after what has been formulated or added to the peace agreement, that this is the only agreement, or this is the only proposal or agreed upon items from the whole world actually, that this is what would lead for a two-state solution. So Egypt is pushing towards this to go through by all means, literally. And of course they're focusing on the entrance of the aid because they want to save the lives of the Palestinians. That unfortunately Hamas and Israel, they're neglecting this. It's collateral damage to them. So we see diplomatic missions, we see informal or friendly communications, whether through phone calls, whether visits, even if they invite people over or they go and visit. Mr. President, the ministers actually, not just the Minister of Foreign Affairs, everyone is heavily working. I believe the missions, the diplomatic missions throughout the world are actually all trying to pull or to exert some pressure with the soft powers as well over this. The media has been heavily engaged on highlighting and documenting the violations and making sure that the truth is actually spoken to the world. So this is also exerting, again, the soft powers, exerting pressure from the international community, hopefully that Israel would comply by the least to this.
Yes, Ms. Haneen, that would bring me to ask about the challenges that the peace process here and the peace agreement is still facing.
Yes.
After all these statements from both sides, from Hamas and from Israel, and yet the threats by the Israeli sides, and How do you see these challenges, and how we can actually face these challenges in order to move forward with the peace process, to find an agreement regarding the disarmament, and to start the reconstruction, and of course ending the humanitarian catastrophe as the winter season is actually starting?
Unfortunately, their agenda is to keep us distracted from the main goal. So let's speak about the West Bank, of course. It hasn't stopped. Nothing of the daily violations of international laws. It hasn't stopped. Demolition of houses, obstruction of work. They keep seizing the fields of the farmers. The Palestinian olive tree, it's the season actually. They were supposed to be harvesting. So it's a major arm, or it's a major revenue of for the farmers as well. So they're trying to keep you distracted from the goal. They're exerting or causing more pain. They're suffocating the people on both sides. Whether in the Gaza, it's beyond horrific. It's a catastrophe by all definitions. And on the West Bank, they keep you busy. They keep on detaining people, civilians. They keep on by force, they keep on taking places and so on. And of course on the Gaza end, the humanitarian aid is not sufficient for the survival of the people. The reconstruction is now much harder with the winter and with the heavy rains in the Gaza Strip. Still, the catastrophe hasn't stopped. It's continued. It's worsening actually. The death of people, it hasn't stopped. The food is not sufficient for the people. The clothes, it's not sufficient for the very cold nights.
There were rains and all the
people are staying in tents. Tents have flooded. So how it needs to be moved faster. So they are aware of this, but they don't really care. So they're creating further issues. They're creating more pains, they're creating more noise, so that the leadership, the management is busy with this noise around the actual pain. They do not want to solve the actual pain, that is the occupation. It's not the war, it's not 7th of October, it's not 1948, it's the occupation since its beginning. So this is what they've been doing.
Again, the humanitarian situation. What humanitarian considerations here is underpinning Egypt's call for an immediate ceasefire in the Gaza Strip?
Of course, the immediate ceasefire means that no more shooting takes place. It hasn't stopped. It means that we put some hold on this, so that the humanitarian aid can go in, the people can take their breath, they can start feeling like normal human beings, ready for the next phase. They do not want this. So they keep on continuing this aggression, and they want to continue this horrific circumstances, so that they do not enable the next phases of the agreement to actually take place. Part of this reconstruction is the financial part. So they are pushing their allies that they hold the money that they were supposed to push or send or transfer, so that the fiscal or the financial part of this reconstruction takes place. There are limitations on how this will be actually implemented. So they need to finance this, so that Egypt actually goes inside with the agreed parties under the technocratic government, under the administration of Egypt, and the renowned, of course, UN parties and so on. So how would you allow this to happen if you're actually also holding the money to come in, holding the material from entering? You're worsening the situation, so you're creating further issues, you're creating a deeper actually pain for the people and for the resolution of this.
We are still hearing about threats regarding the disarmament of Hamas, and if Hamas is not disarmed, that Israel will interfere to do so. We are still hearing about threats regarding the division of the Gaza Strip. How do you see all these threats while there is an agreement signed and a peace agreement signed, which is not totally implemented, and witnessing violations from the Israeli side?
Of course, they keep on finding the gaps and magnifying them. And with this, the followed approach is that not to ignore them, but to fight back with the again, we're trying to go for harmony, we're trying to go for synergy. So the Palestinian Authority has spoken very loud and clear by Mr. President and of course his representatives, that the government will still be responsible for the Gaza Strip. They negotiated with him multiple times. Drop the Gaza Strip and we will agree on whatever you want. He keeps on saying, no, it's the whole of Palestine, both the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. So he continues to fulfill his duties as the father of this home, and they fight him back with holding the money that he should be paying for the people. So still suffocating the government, suffocating the everything basically, any vessel of hope, they try and cut it. But we keep on saying that Palestine is united, that even if they try to feed the division of the factions, no, we are a unity of a body of unity actually. All the factions should unite and speak under the formal body of the PLO. The Palestinian Liberation Organization. Of course, now it's taking a different, how can we say, a different presence with the recognition of Palestine as a state. So we're working towards that. We keep on saying that no, we are in harmony, we speak of the same language, we speak of the same tone. That is, we want to go for peace, we want to re-establish our country, we want to re-establish the state as we should.
Yes. Ms. Haneen, how do you see the situation here and the stance of the Palestinian factions, and to what extent the stance is actually giving the opportunity to the Israeli side to taking some pretext to not implement the ceasefire agreement?
As we always see, those who are in favor of Palestine, they are in favor of this agreement. And those who are in favor with their own agenda, their own individual agenda, with whoever is sponsoring them from external, they go against. So this is what we've seen lately. The formal decision is to go with the peace agreement. Hamas went out and said, no, we are against. Why? Because they're not really interested about Palestine. They're not really interested of the Palestinian civilians. They want their own agenda of establishing their own state or whatever they've been deluded with. So this delusional approach of whatever the agenda of their external sponsors is actually hindering the unity of the Palestinian direction, or the Palestinian statement of a one country, a single government that's led by the president. We want something that's proper, something that's decent. They do not want that, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
And this gives, of course, a reason, or this gives the room for Israel or those who are against the establishment of the Palestinian state to go and further
How we can overcome this very important challenge, Ms. Haneen, to unite the Palestinian factions and not give the Israeli side a pretext to do these violations?
Well, actually, I call Hamas as a cancer cell. It's a very vicious cell. It's going against the norm of the development of the Palestinian state and the Palestinian cause. So in order to cut this, or to cut the life, or actually to diminish this activity, you need to cut everything that's feeding it. So the support of external communities or external parties who are feeding this vicious entity, this malicious activity, needs to be cut or reduced by the least. When they are out of money, they're very compliant. And we've seen this multiple times. When they run out of money, they come begging and they speak of unity and they say, we are part of the PLO, we want to join, and so on. When someone comes and feeds them with more money, they don't want anything. So we've got our back. So we can say that we need some task force that works against this as well. So because this is an arm of the occupation. So cut the feeding, cut the enforcement, cut the enablement of this cancerous entity in the Palestinian body. When it gets weaker, they're more compliant. So stop supporting them. This is what we need to say. Stop supporting them. It was very strange that during the negotiations, countries have been يعني hosting or receiving the representatives of Hamas or the Hamas leadership. No, it's a matter of occupation between one country and the other. We have a state, we have a government, we have a president, that's Mr. Mahmoud Abbas currently, and we have representatives of his government. So speak to them. Why are you speaking to factions? Unfortunately, we've seen countries doing that. So this means that you are supporting them. You are going against the proper representation of this body. You have a state, you have a country, you have a president. Go speak with this. Don't speak with the little ones. Don't speak with a faction when you have a country, when you have a government.
But we have to highlight here, Ms. Haneen, that regarding the issue of the hostages, regarding the release of the bodies of the deceased Israelis, Hamas had these bodies and the hostages, and it had to be involved in order to reach a ceasefire, and it was one of the main, of course, partners.
Of course, they're heavily present, so we cannot neglect them. Indeed. But we cannot only say that they are the only ones to be at the table. This is what I'm saying. Inclusion, that's what the formal, or that's what everyone is saying, inclusion. But do not highlight something over the other, especially that this highlighting gives the enemy an excuse to prolong.
Which is the case right now.
Exactly. So I'm not saying, I'm not blaming
of Hamas and how the
it's just an excuse. It's just an excuse. There are other factions. There is Fatah, there is Jihad Islami, there is two Jabhas, there are there are 13 factions. So why are you only pinning it on Hamas?
Which is the case.
Exactly. And all, we're speaking of let's say 10 out of the 13 factions on board with what the minister, not just the minister, but the president as well is saying. So you're only picking on the one who said no. We have 160 countries of the UN speaking in favor of Palestine. Why are we speaking of those 4 or 5 that said no? We have a majority that's saying yes, so why are you focusing on the little? When negotiating, we do not go to the factions in Israel that go against the agenda of Mr. Netanyahu or Mr. Ben Gvir or whoever. We speak of the bigger picture. We speak of those who are in control. So hopefully maybe this will be considered in the future, like we've seen in the previous over history, of course, the collaboration of entities, the collaboration of countries. It was seen between Syria and Egypt. It was seen between Jordan and Egypt. So the region as a whole has been a part. The success of the 6th of October, the major or the very prideful moment of the Egyptian victory, it wasn't done solely by Egypt. Of course, yes, there was an excellent and exceptional vision, but it was done through the consensus of the whole of the Arab world as well. So we need to retain that. We need to return to this point of continued support to one another, not just the deviation or the...
That would bring me to ask, how does Egypt's continuous communication with various parties enhance the chances of succeeding the Gaza ceasefire to continue and to enter the second phase and continue to the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip? Yes,
Egypt hasn't stopped communicating with Qatar, with Turkey, with everyone in the region. Of course, communications between Egypt and the King of Jordan. Of course, we're speaking that those neighboring countries are the main main roles of this agreement to become very successful, or actually to become implemented. So Egypt hasn't stopped communicating with everyone in the region, the Arab world, of course, each with their own buy-in method, the collaboration between, whether it's in terms of economic collaborations, if they've brought the Europeans to Egypt to speak with them, the Chinese president, so they haven't stopped communicating throughout the world, actually trying to get the buy-in, trying to create some pressure, trying to create an international consensus over this division that's been the crack that's been trying to grow into a division.
Yes, indeed. Why is a multilateral coordination important in the context of the Gaza conflict?
Because the location of this, let's say, conflict is very crucial to the whole region. It does not require the involvement of only one country. we are in remembrance of the what Yasser Arafat has said. We are speaking of peace and we are speaking of war. So if this region is at war, everyone around it is at war, because this region is the entry point of goods. If we are speaking of economical dimension, for business to actually grow, you need your neighboring countries to be at peace. For your peace to be established at your own country, you need the peace to be among your neighboring countries. So if my neighbor is suffering from a major security issue, then I'm always alarmed. I'm unable to sleep the night. This is what's happening in Egypt. Egypt cannot grow if its neighboring country is not at peace. Same for Jordan, same for the Arab countries, because if one wants to enter this this region, going, for example, to Saudi Arabia, it's not just through air, it's also through the sea as well, and through land. So everyone is interested. The prosperity of this land means the prosperity of the neighboring countries or the neighboring land, and the criticality of the security of this land is not merely an interest of Egypt only. And of course we're speaking of the gas fields that have been found on the shore of the Mediterranean Sea at the Gaza Strip. So this is a major business opportunity for major investors. So again, Mr. Trump is not easy. Mr. Trump is a businessman. So this is what he's interested in. This is what England is interested in. This is what the prime ministers are interested in. They want the money. So this is why everyone is trying to get a piece of this. So this is the political, this is the economical, this is the geospatial interest in this region.
Yes. What are we aiming here as Egypt and the other partners to achieve through the reconciliation dialogue?
Peace. We want some peace. Enough with this noise, enough with this bloodshed, enough with this violations. It has wrecked and it has shaken our belief in everything. What values, what rights, what freedoms are we speaking of if we're seeing everything being violated right on air, and everyone is seeing, and nothing has been made to reconstruct this or to recorrect this violation. So everyone wants this to be corrected so that we feel at peace again. The whole world, actually, because it hasn't only shaken those in the region, it has shaken the whole world. The European countries, the European people have been out in the streets calling for this to be stopped.
Indeed.
They are impacted. Everyone is impacted. So it's not just a pain or a noise to the neighboring countries, it's a noise and a pain to the world.
Indeed.
Exactly.
Which Palestinian factions are involved in the reconciliation talks hosted by Cairo?
Everyone is involved, because we're speaking of unity. But we're always seeing the major ones, the ones with the most representation among the Palestinian people, with the louder voices. But we cannot say that we're speaking of almost 13 factions, so we cannot say that not all of them are speaking, but we know that the major ones, the bigger shares, are the ones who are louder. And some of them have a better investment in the media and a better investment in the propaganda making. So we see louder voices over the other. But the whole of the Palestinian presentation, the whole of the Palestinian people, you see the youngest child in the Gaza Strip speaking of political solutions.
Of course, because they are suffering on the ground.
They are the ones on the ground, so we cannot speak on behalf of them.
They are the victims here.
Exactly, exactly. So all of the factions are involved one way or another, but again, similar to anything, there is a bigger sample or a bigger presentation of the Palestinian population, so we see louder voices. We cannot neglect Fatah, we cannot neglect Hamas, we cannot neglect Jihad Islami. They're all actually throughout the history have been part of this resistance, and they have the highest or the most present population in the Palestinian population, whether actually in Palestine or in the diaspora as well. But we cannot neglect anyone. Not just because I mentioned those three, we cannot ignore the remaining factions.
Which Palestinian factions actually are, since history, are preventing the unity, and how might Egypt and other partners address the factions in order to find some kind of unity in order to reshape the situation with the Israeli side.
Right. Since the beginning of this occupation, let's go back in history to 1948.
Yeah.
We've seen the Fida'is, those Palestinian fighters who do not belong to any political party back then. They're all interested in Palestine and the freedom of Palestine. So after some development, we've seen the shaping or the uprising of Fatah, the revolutionary movement. The establishment was in 1965, the 1st of January 1965, after a very successful mission in the middle of the occupation. So since then, they've been always speaking of Palestine, the liberation of Palestine. Afterwards, that was the establishment of PLO, speaking of Palestine and the Palestinian people, presenting them. Of course, we've seen Yasser Arafat.
Of course.
In a very exceptional presence. On 15th of November, he went in Al Jazeera in Algeria and he said, I'm declaring the state of Palestine. We're under occupation, sir. But he was speaking of the dream. He was speaking of the establishment of Palestine. Later came multiple or different other presentations of the people with different visions. Next came we can say a different approach or a different vision for this form of resistance, and they thought that they were taking the religious coverage under this resistance, and we found the presence of Hamas. Of course, the founder was, Allah yarhamu, Sheikh Yassin. So they took a figure of even a sheikh, so they wanted to present Islam to be يعني supported by those who follow Islam in this population, forgetting that Palestine is for all, forgetting that religion is for Allah, for God. You cannot take a piece of this under this, and this is what we are saying. الدين الجميع والوطن لله، الوطن للجميع والدين لله. This the land is for everyone and your religious beliefs are for you. It's between you and your creator. No one can pick on that. But those wanted deviation. Unfortunately, with the development, with the external interest in the Palestinian land or the Palestinian presence, they started to take over and to feed into this or to sponsor this with money that actually comes from external agendas. So those external figures have started shaping the minds of those leaders. And we've seen one execution after the other. We've seen divisions among Hamas, unfortunately, and unfortunately they deviated from their original reason or purpose, that is the freedom of Palestine, now to what we are seeing, their individual pockets, their individual power. That's what we're seeing. A true leader stays on their land, a true leader fights with their people. What we are seeing from Hamas specifically, is that the leaders are actually all around the world. No one is in Palestine. So what does this say? What does this say about the division? What does this say? We see actually if someone sits and analyzes a couple or three or four of their statements, you see, you hear, and you understand that what they are saying is not actually in favor of Palestine or the Palestinian people. But they're very good with the propaganda and with the marketing. They market for themselves in a very, very, very professional way. So they promote that they are the ones who are in favor of liberating Palestine, but what we are seeing on the ground is they are the very ones who are going against. They're actually making the success of the Israeli agenda more realistically approachable or attainable than the success of this peacemaking. If they were indeed in favor of the freedom of Palestine, we would have seen those power or this action or this يعني interest going against the enemy, not with their agenda, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, and waiting for the reconstruction of Gaza.
Inshallah, it will happen. It will happen. It's just a matter of time.
Violation and a complete ceasefire and unity between all the Palestinian factions. Mrs. Haneen Abu Shanab, member of the General Union for Palestinian Women, it was a real pleasure. Thank you so much for being our guest for tonight.
Thank you.
Our dear guests, that would bring us to the end of this edition from our daily debate. Many thanks for watching.